Chamali, when you've been out campaigning, Cambridge has a population of nearly 74%, which are white British people. So what's been the reaction to you when you've gone out onto the doorsteps and knocked on the doors, because you're the first brown face to stand in an election as a candidate and a female?
It's very interesting. I've had in Newnham, I had a parent say to me, just wait there for 1 minute, I want to go and get my daughter. And his daughter must have been about 8 years old, and he said, this is the Conservative parliamentary candidate. And I'm sure what he was saying to her is, if this girl can do it, you can do it. So that's very heartwarming. We've also had scenarios, generally we canvass in pairs. It adds to the bit of banter and raillery on the doorstep. You know, one person can crack a joke, I can go straight in there with the hardline political angle. And sometimes, in certain parts of the constituency, when it's been immigration that is a problem, or whether we stay in Europe, people have been a little afraid to say those things because they feel, am I being racist by saying this? So particularly with immigration, if I'm canvassing with someone who's not Asian on the doorstep, which frequently happens because our association is predominantly English, people have, when I've said, you know, tell me your #1 issue, the person on the doorstep has looked at whoever I'm canvassing with, changed their glance away from me and said, it's immigration. And sometimes they caveat it or cushion it with, I don't mean to be rude. And what stage have we got to in this country where to talk about immigration is considered rude? It's a real problem for this country, and depending on where you live in the country, if, for example, I told you I was born and raised in Leicester. In Leicester, immigration has placed a huge strain on public sector services. We don't feel it so much in Cambridge, and we shouldn't be afraid of talking about it. It is an issue, and certainly this election, UKIP have sought to make it the #1 issue of this election. I beg to differ. I think the economy and public sector services are the most important and really what is the future of this country.
Have you had any negative reaction because you're Asian and female?
No.
Racism thrown at you?
No, no.
I was talking to an Asian MP recently who was standing in a white seat back in 2001, and when he was standing as a candidate, he was told by his, his party workers, you'd be better off standing in Southall or Birmingham. There's more of your people there. Is that attitude still kind of...
Well, it's interesting because in the Conservative Party, when I joined, I was told by the head of candidates, the type of seat you want to go for is really a safe seat and actually an urban intellectual seat, which is what drew me to Cambridge as well. Local associations do have their problems, you know, in every single party. There are people who have very archaic views, very parochial views of what happens in politics and how politics should be. And you do have to tackle those. But I think the party nationally recognises the importance of women being in politics and recognises the importance of changing the colour of Parliament so that it reflects modern Britain.
What are the particular concerns of the Sri Lankan community that you've come across and you'd like to deal with if you do get selected as the MP? Yeah.
So we don't have that many Sri Lankans in this constituency. There's about, I would have said, about 500 families, and really they tend to be from a professional background or PhDs. They're either doctors or nurses at the hospital. Addenbrooke's, which is the hospital that services Cambridge, employs around 15,000 people, and although the hospital is just on the boundary outside the constituency, a lot of people who are employed at Addenbrooke's live in this constituency. So you hear issues about the NHS, you hear issues about education. But generally, I also find that Asian people who are from a professional background or a hard-working background, whatever the job they do, they want what we want in the Conservative Party, a good education for their children. They want their child to have some respect for their elders. They want their child to either become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant, or a businessman. You know, that is so suited not only to what we have on offer here in Cambridge, but also the values of the Conservative Party and the values of Asians.
With regards to the Sri Lankan community, the politics of Sri Lanka has unfortunately also been brought onto the shores of Britain and other parts of Western Europe. in particular the feud between the Tamils and Sinhalese and the ongoing wars, issues there. How do you feel about such issues, and what do you think should be done if you do become an MP in this part?
I think I want to correct something you said. Actually, the feud in Sri Lanka was between the Tamil Tigers and the rest of the country. So Sri Lanka is a country that has 4 different ethnic minority communities, if you like. So there's the Sinhalese community, there's the Dutch burghers, which is people who descend from the Dutch who invaded the country during colonial times, and then there is the Muslim community, and of course there's a Tamil community. And there was this rebel organisation which terrorised its own people. Whether they were Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslim or Burgher, it didn't matter, they terrorised them. And it was largely to do with racketeering and profit making. That has now stopped. You know, Sri Lanka has peace for the first time in 33 years, and it is beginning to flourish as a country. It's a beautiful country, and if you've, I don't know if you've visited.
I'd love to go.
It is a tropical island, so you have all the tropical fruits, tropical birds, tropical plants. It's very colourful, and of course, because it's an island, it's surrounded by water. Wherever you are, pretty much, you can see the coastline.
So if you do get selected as an MP here, what part would you like to play with regards to Britain's relations with Sri Lanka?
I was very fortunate recently to meet the President of Sri Lanka when he came here to meet the Queen and also the Prime Minister of this country. And it's interesting, in Sri Lanka the President has been enabled to retain 1 ministerial department under his name, and he's retained the environment. It's a big passion of mine, and it was very interesting to hear some of his ideas for Sri Lanka as a country. And this is where I think we can make a really strong link between some of the achievements we have in Cambridge and some of the models and achievements they have in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka had the first eco-friendly factory in the world. When you look at versatility and the use of products and making sure that we get the maximum use out of whatever resources we have, Sri Lanka is amazing. And a lot of people, without realising, they will eat locally sourced organic food, and the diet generally is focused on fish and vegetables. It's quite a healthy population, and they say that Sri Lanka is the only third world country where you cannot die of starvation, because generally you can put anything in the ground and it will grow.
So what about the dodgy relationship that has been between India and Sri Lanka, which has been going on for years? How do you see that if you do become an MP?
I don't know whether I would describe it as dodgy. I think what Sri Lanka has to offer the world and also to offer India is enormous. We are located in a very geopolitical sensitive area, and that's why, you know, Britain, when the British invaded Sri Lanka, it was used as a base to then go on to conquer other places. So there's the opportunity for stronger trade links between the two countries, but also I think for too long Sri Lanka has been considered the little child of India. And actually, you know what? We Sri Lankans might be small, but we can punch well above our weight.
But under the Modi government, do you see a room for improvement?
I would like to strengthen ties between not just Sri Lanka and India, but also Sri Lanka and Britain. And I think there is an opportunity for that. Obviously, the campaign I'm running here is very focused on Cambridge. You know, I am right now in the middle of a campaign in about 2 weeks' time. Well, less than 2 weeks. We will be on polling day in this country. If I make it, and I believe, you know, the will of the people is there, we have the opportunity, not only as a female British Asian in Parliament, but also from a seat that has this international recognition, to start leading the world in some of our ideas, whether that be on environment and climate change, or whether that be on trade ties. You know, there's a lot of Indian people who are working in the technology sector in Cambridge, and there's also a lot of Sri Lankan people working in the technology sector in Cambridge. So these are areas where you see this great interface and diversity between Sri Lankans and Indians, and it's very interesting to see that dynamic play out.
The election is one of the most tightly contested elections of all times. How important is the ethnic minority votes in order to secure a win for the parties now? It seems to be they're all gaining, turning to the ethnic minority communities.
It's interesting because I think the ethnic minority communities across Britain have a huge part to play in politics and determining the outcome of an election. And what I would ask people to do is really look at the policies of each party, study the manifestos, see the philosophy behind those policies, and see for yourself whether this is something you subscribe to. For too long, Asians have felt Labour is the party of immigrants, or Labour is the party that will be on the side of ethnic minorities. In actual fact, you'll find that your values, what you believe in, what you want to achieve in life, it's all really the same as the Conservative philosophy.
Just recently we've had the Conservative Party who've launched the Ethnic Minority Manifesto. What's your opinion of this?
My personal view is there is no need to launch a separate manifesto and say this is specifically for this group of people, because actually the key thing about politics and about being in politics or subscribing to politics is that you want to play in the mainstream, because that's where you get your voice heard, not on the fringes of politics. I do feel that the way the Conservative Party manifesto was initially drafted, the way our policy was written on the website, it was quite complex for anyone to have to digest. And it was a point I made to Eric Pickles back in January 2013. We need to really refine the way we write our policy, because actually at the time the only clear and easily digestible policy was on foreign policy, which is a huge area, but I suspect William Hague had written that policy paragraph himself.
Presumably this ethnic minority manifesto is really launched because now it's the time to secure those extra votes in order to win, because now they're saying both parties are neck and neck.
I think we do need to reach out to the Asian community.
And hence the manifesto is probably the thing that will do it, and the Labour Party's also launched their ethnic minority manifesto.
Yes, and I think it would have been more far-sighted had our original manifesto really encompassed all of those issues that we're seeking to target the Asian voter on, because actually it then says we've not done this separate thing for you, you're part of the Conservative manifesto. And I think it's a mistake actually by the two main political parties, but it's something that we're addressing. So I'm pleased that yes, we've launched it.
We are considered as part and parcel of the society, but there are needs that are culturally probably different, and perhaps they're more addressed in this manifesto.
It is the case that the manifesto goes into more detail, and therefore there is the advantage of actually saying, this is specifically what we're looking at in respect of your community, because we recognise that your community has a voice on its own. But I also take the flip side, which is let's all be in the mainstream of British politics. Yeah.
So why should your constituents vote for you now?
So the big issues are improving quality of life for everyone, and that can be through welfare to work schemes, ensuring those who need our help the most are supported, ensuring that the NHS remains free at the point of delivery, but also creating job opportunities. So whether that's apprenticeships, we've pledged in the Conservatives to deliver 3 million apprenticeships in the next parliamentary term if we are made the government. We have delivered 2.2 million in this parliamentary term, and also to equip the workforce so that they have the skills. And like me, the fact that I went on to look at a career abroad is due to the fact that I speak a couple of languages, and also that I have an international outlook. And I want every child to be able to access a high quality of education, because your education is actually the key to unlocking this world. And the other thing, which is so prevalent in Cambridge, is the opportunity to make Cambridge a real global benchmark for a greener, fairer, sustainable society.
Now, since 2005, the Lib Dems have held the seat in Cambridge City. So how hopeful are you can sort of take it from them?
So this seat has been all of three colours in the last 25 years. It used to be solidly Conservative before then. However, we came second in Cambridge in 2010, and that was with a very limited campaign fought on a shoestring budget. This time round, we have gone out to all parts of the constituency. We've knocked on as many doors as possible. I have gone into full-time campaigning since August 2014. You know, we know now that we have fixed-term parliaments when the election is going to be, and I decided that if I wanted to become the MP for Cambridge, I have to give it everything. And I think that's also a message for youngsters. If you're going to do something, you've got to put 110% in.
If you don't win, will you continue to pursue another seat next time in Cambridge?
If I don't win, I'm sure there are lots of things that might happen. It would be wrong of me to speculate. Ultimately, it's down to the electorate to determine whether I should win or lose. And I feel that the opportunities created, not just as running for this seat, but the opportunities created through my work enable me to continue to do something in life. My father gave me the best possible advice. Even if you're interested in politics, go out there and do something else with your life first, because then you bring an enriched perspective to Parliament. And I'm you know, can't count my chickens before they hatch, but we're fighting a very good fight here in Cambridge.
We're told by the polls that it's definitely going to be another coalition government, and the Lib Dems are talking about their coalition agenda. So what are the chances of Conservatives winning again?
So technically, we only have to win another 23 seats to form a majority government. We are targeting far more than that, and we are confident that our message is very clear. Judge us on our track record and give us another 5 years to deliver better government that's going in the right direction. So at the moment, coalition government, and I often say this to people on the doorstep, feels like you're in a three-legged race with the Lib Dems going in the opposite direction and you're trying to go forward. We need to go forward as a country so that we not only lift those at the bottom, but actually continue on this path to prosperity. It's important for our economy, and it's important to ensure that everyone has a good start in life.
And what's your message to our viewers today watching you on MATV?
Come to Cambridge. We need as much help as possible. The election is on the 7th of May. Here in Cambridge we have 2 votes. You get a vote for the general election and a vote for the local election. And if you can help in any way possible, we will find a job for you to do.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Chamali. I do hope you win your seat on May 7th. I will be watching the TV.
Thank you.
You know, channels all night long, and as soon as I see your name there, and if you win, I will be the first one to shout. But in the meantime, as viewers, please do make sure you go out and cast your votes for the parties that are appropriate for you, and we hope to see you again soon. So it's goodbye from me now.